Now, one of the things in my faith community, the Christian community, we have a scripture verse. It's basically 2 Corinthians 10, verse 5. It says, take every thought captive. So we think about fantasies and we say, you know, we have to take this thought captive. Now, what the heck does that mean? Well, I will tell you there's lots of solutions out there. The 3-second rule, you have 3 seconds to think about it before you stop. There's, of course, the people that say just don't think about it in the first place. Avert your eyes, look the other way, look down, you know, snap rubber bands or, you know, on your wrist. I mean, let me just tell you that while some of this strategy, as simplistic as it is, may be important in the early days of recovery, it doesn't work over the long term. You know why? Because if a fantasy is a message from the soul, which I believe it is, and the soul needs to be heard, the soul will repeat that message over and over and over again until you get what it's trying to tell you. I want to give you a couple examples of that, but I want you to be engaged. You know, you don't have to think this morning about sexual fantasies. We all fantasize about lots of different things, don't we? 1967, I'm kind of a name dropper. I should have admitted that earlier in the things that I was, you know, confessing being. But in 1967, in the Illinois State High School tennis tournament, the semifinal round, I came up against a 5'4" little wimp of a kid who I said to myself, I am going to kill this kid on to glory, on to the state championship, on to Wimbledon, and when the Queen comes down to present me with the trophy at Wimbledon, I will have arrived. Well, this little 5'4" kid, his mother was carrying his tennis bag. His mother was yelling and screaming at him during the match, and he beat me and completely devastated me, 6'1", 6'1". His name was Jimmy Connors. Now, how many of you think occasionally in my fantasy life I replay that match? And who do you think wins? You see, one of the things fantasy can do is replay an earlier experience with a different result. If my soul is longing for affirmation, if it's longing for what Debbie and I have called the 7 desires of the heart, I can create a fantasy in which I win, I succeed, I achieve, I accomplish, and I will receive the accolades of the world. I have fantasies about money. I saw the sign coming in from the airport. The Powerball lottery is $72 million. And I bargain with God. I say, Lord, I tithe. Just tell me the 6 numbers. Our church will get $7.2 million. Think about that new wing they're trying to add. It's never worked. But in my fantasy life, see, if I had a lot more money, what would the world think? Well, this Mark Laser, he's really a great guy. He's got all this money. I have another confession to make. I have author envy. I have fantasies about books. Somebody told me yesterday, Dave Carter, my good friend who got me involved with Smart Marriages in the first place, that Gary Chapman's book has now sold over 6 million copies. I got to go see Gary. How did you do this? How does that happen? Well, in my fantasy life, I write the New York Times #1 bestseller, and what is my soul wanting? It's wanting to be liked. It's wanting to be approved. All of those feelings of inadequacy and shame that I've had over the course of my life, you see, my fantasies come along and they correct it. The final thing that fantasy does is it might recreate that arousal template. If we found at age 11 or 12 or whatever age that sexual feeling was the solution to our emotional condition, we will replay that over and over and over again. Let me tell you one.